Donnie B got to be.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Donnie B. Got the Beats. We live on the beat. You know what time it is when you hear that beat bang, boy. So you already know what time it is if you pay attention to the beat. It's time for that glorious intros. So in my path, man, I've come across some very talented individuals, very talented individuals, and recently. Shout out to my brother DJ Prince Ice, man. Conversate with him about the hip hop game, where it came from, how everything was derived, and he introduced me to some pretty fascinating people that helped to tell the story about how hip hop came about, what hip hop truly is, because a lot of people get it confused with rap, and it's a whole different thing, right? So, nonetheless, saying all that to say, one of the guys he talked about quite heavily and highly of is this brother right here. Got to read his bio, got to check him out, look at everything he's been doing, and he has done so much for the industry. And I'm so excited to have him on. I got the DJ, remixer, turntablist, music producer, radio show host, Grandmixer GMS. What's going on, Grandmixer GMS?
Hey, what's up? What's up? How you doing, Donnie? Thank you for that nice intro. Speaking of Prince Ice, check this out. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, that's it.
This, for one, it's a real record for those of you who don't know, but it's actually from DJ Prince Ice, Dope Mix Volume 1. It's got a signed copy. That's why I have not opened it yet, and I don't think I will, but yeah, so that's a classic. So shouts out to Prince Ice. Hey, for those of you who don't know who Prince Ice is, man, that guy, super dope, great DJ, great history, very influential, especially from the Bay Area. If you were growing up in the Bay Area back in the 80s when he was around and even into the 90s and all that, you know who he is. And even the people who don't know, they may have never heard of him. You felt his influence throughout the world because he was right there with people like Cameron Paul, with Sway and King, and their efforts. I mean, you can never quantify what somebody has done, but their efforts have had a ripple effect that have influenced the world, even if you've never heard of them. So big shouts out to Prince Ice. And real quick, if I can, today is the birthday of my MMA coach, Rick Little. He's the coach at Sick Jitsu, this MMA gym here in Spokane. With some of you may have heard of Sick Jitsu if you watch UFC. There's like Michael Chiesa, Juliana Pena. They're the fighters out of there. The new fighter on the new season of The Ultimate Fighter, Brady. He trains out of there, and also some other fighters as well. They're coming up next Friday, not this Friday, next Friday, October 29th. Theo Dukas and Ashton Carlton, all of them. So they're gonna be training. But happy birthday, Rick! Excellent coach too.
That's what's up, man. Please enjoy your birthday, brother. Please enjoy your birthday. We had Jeff on too. He said salute GMS. So shout out to Jeff, man, and BTP Media, man. They, doing a thing, man, doing a thing. So let's get into this.
Absolutely, man. I love Jeff. Jeff. Okay. All right.
No, wait. Go ahead. No, please.
No, so I got so check it out. I just grabbed I just grabbed my BTP media. Oh, here it is, right here. Bam. What's up, Jeff? Bam, bam. All right.
That's what it is.
Jeff, man, he's incredible. Not a DJ or anything like that. He has an impact on hip hop as well. You know, he's one of those people. He loves hip hop, and so he does what he can to try and help keep the history alive. You know, and where people know about, you know, because that's the thing is a lot of people nowadays, and you know, I'm not knocking them because a lot of people are young or whatever, but I think people should know their history.
I agree.
And so Jeff is, very important as far as trying to help preserve. He's technically part of hip hop. You know, he's not a DJ, he's not an MC, graffiti artist, breakdancer, nothing like that. But he is part of hip hop. Shouts out to Jeff.
Yeah, shout out to Jeff, man. Great curator of the hip hop, man. Real live. Listen, let's get into this, GMS. Yeah. So, first question: who is Grandmaster GMS? For people that don't know who you are and what you're about, could you please enlighten the fans?
Okay. Well, I don't know who Grandmaster GMS is.
Sorry, Grandmixer.
I know who Grandmixer GMS is. No, that's okay. It happens all the time. Even when I was on Sway in the morning, Sway, even though he knew what it was Grandmixer, I think it's because you have like Grandmaster Flash and he's very popular. So,
there we go.
So there you go. Who is Grandmixer GMS? Perfect. All right. So so I'm a DJ. I originally started. I got into hip hop when I was really young as a breakdancer. Maybe I should go backwards a little bit. So. Right. So I'm a DJ, remixer, turntablist. I currently host a show that consistently goes #1 on Mixcloud global charts. It's called Global Frequency. I play new and classic hip hop, R&B, and indie music. And that's important to me as far as indie music, because the way radio is set up now, you know, with the Telecommunications Act of 1996 and all of that, that put a serious damper on radio. Okay, radio, I think, used to be way better back then. Now it's very hard to get on the radio, so that's why I like you know, playing indie artists, giving them their shot, you know, so they can get exposure. And then also I do KFOX Nightbeat with the West Coast music legend DJ Nasty-Nes. If anyone knows who Sir Mix-a-Lot is, then you can thank a lot of that has to do with Nasty-Nes, because he's actually the first DJ on the entire West Coast to have a hip hop radio show. But they started Nasty Mix Records. Ed Locke, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Nasty-Nes. There's another guy named Greg Jones as well. You don't hear a lot about him, but there's a guy named Greg Jones. They started Nasty Mix Records, and that was the label that launched Sir Mix-a-Lot's career. So without Ness, I would say, I mean, Mix-a-Lot, very hard worker. I think his career might be nasty.
Your video and audio are chopping just a bit.
Oh, is it choppy?
Yeah,
okay,
it's choppy.
What did you miss?
You said Mix-a-Lot is a hard worker, and that's what last we heard.
Oh yeah, so so I think Mix-a-Lot's career probably would have been different if it weren't for Nasty-Nes. Not to take anything away from Mix-a-Lot, but you know, Ness was he was very instrumental in, because he had a lot of the radio connections, you know, so he was very instrumental in what had happened. Now, you know, obviously what would happen, you know, you never know that, but so I do the radio show with him, KFOX Nightbeat. It's an old school flashback show, but we also feature a new music spotlight at about 9:25 every week, and that keeps in line with Ness's original show, KFOX Fresh Tracks. And then also we feature the last 30 minutes of the show. So it's either me or I've been encouraging Ness to bring in other DJs, you know, because it's, you know, I think people should. And so, so we bring in other DJs as well, which is really cool. So I do that. And I'm also the DJ for Tairrie B, who is, if you remember Eazy E's record label, Comptown Records, she did the song DJ and also her remixer. So you can look up, and that, if you look that up, you'll see a couple remixes that I did. I've and another one, Bader Ginsburg, when she passed away, and John Lewis. It's called Truth Bomb. So I did that. You can find that. And I'm also the DJ remixer for the High Children, JJ Hudson and the High Children. And so on that note, we've got a brand hour. We can talk about it later. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. We'll get to
okay. So yeah, so she's got a new single. Okay. All right. And then so anyway, so going back, the way I got into it was I was a breakdancer, and I used to record mixes off the radio. And it wasn't to, well, and because me and my cousin Tony, since we were breakdancers, when we would have good music and good mixes, then that improved our breakdancing performances. Well, the problem was we live in Spokane. So Spokane for a long time, and I still, it's better now, but for a long time, the radio absolutely sucked. And there were no DJs out here, no mixing DJs or anything like that. There was a hip hop scene, but it was very small. And so, but we had a really good record store called Strawberry Jams. So what I would do is I would go and spend my allowance money on these records there, the records that we would hear off of like KFOX and KTOY in Tacoma. And what I had started doing was started making mixes, not to be a DJ, but to help me and my cousin's breakdancing routines. And so in the process, I had taught myself how to mix, which wasn't easy because being from Spokane back. Are we there?
Yeah,
we break up?
Yeah, I lost you again. You said about
remember me saying
what wasn't easy back back in you were about to say year, and that's where it cut.
Oh yeah, so it wasn't easy back then because for one, there was no YouTube, there was no other DJs, no YouTube, so I had to figure out how these DJs were mixing by listening to the mixtapes, listening to the records. One thing that helped a lot was on MT had a performance, and it was Grandmixer DST or DXT. He formed, and I was glued to that TV set, watching everything he did, and I was just fascinated. So I taught my by the time 1986 rolled around, I was like the last breakdancer in Spokane. Well, at least I was the last person who was willing to admit he was a breakdancer in Spokane back then, right? And okay. And so I was thinking, okay, so how do I stay involved? And it was totally different in Spokane because there was a scene, but it was a very small scene. And so the day I was thinking about this, I was actually in my bedroom, and I was looking at all this equipment that I had collected over time, to work on my mixes, breakdancing routines. And I realized, well, wait a minute, I could be a DJ because I know how to mix. And I had actually DJ'd one time when I was 11. I mean, it wasn't spectacular or anything. It's a basic performance. This guy named Charles Knight was DJing, and I was in there watching him, and he had to go to the bathroom. And so he asked if I could play the next record. And so I said, yeah, okay. And he showed me, I saw what he was doing. And then he showed me, and just play it, you put the needle on and all that. And then played the next record. And then I had heard a lady asking, she was complaining that he hadn't played the Mary Jane Girls Candyman. And he had the record. We had the record at home too, so I knew the song. Charles Knight wasn't coming back from the bathroom yet, and the record was about to end. I was like, oh shoot. So I quickly grabbed that record and played it. And then and I heard response, so she was happy, and and then that song is about to end and he's still not back. So I'm like, okay, shoot. So I started going through, and he had all the good records at that time. And so I just started playing. I spun for I think about an hour or so. And then I think he must have forgot that he was DJing or something, because the music just kept playing, and eventually he came back. So yeah, so I was sitting there and thinking about what am I going to do? And then I was like, okay, so I could mix equipment. I got a bunch of records. And so I'm like, okay. So that's how I started DJing. That's how I became. It was later that year that I was actually on the radio. There was a guy named TJ Collins on the station called Power 104 that started he started a show. It was called the Power Switch. And what would happen was but and he would play more R&B, he would play hip hop records, but he didn't have a lot of music, which is surprising because radio stations pretty much get everything. At least back then. I don't know about now, but so so I started calling him, asking him for music, and he didn't have much of anything. And I'd ask him, hey, can you play some mixes? He mix. And then one day I was like, well, wait a minute, why am I doing that? I know there's no one who mix here in town, except there was a guy named Skeet who would make mixtapes, but they weren't like master mixes like you would hear other DJs do, And so I was like, well, why don't I just would play some mixes? So I asked him, I told him, I said, look, I'm GMS, and I asked if he would be interested in playing some mixes. And he said, yeah, absolutely. I said, okay, cool. And he's like, well, hey, what record do you have? What kind of music you got? And so I told him, I gave him a list of my, some of my records, and he basically wanted everything that I had. And so I brought him to him and let him record them. And so that's actually, so one of the records was the Square Dance Rap by Sir Mix-a-Lot. And so when, because I wasn't the only one that had requested that was one of the songs I had requested. And then he started playing that. And so that became like the most requested song at the station at that time, and which was really cool. So anyway, so that's how I started doing, well, okay, yes. So I gave him a mixtape. He listened to it, loved it. And then he was like, man, can you do more of these? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So that's how I started mixing on the radio in Spokane. Now, at that time, what I didn't realize, I just didn't think commercial radio before. And so later, as I reflected back, I'm like, okay, so I'm actually the first DJ to ever mix for commercial radio in Spokane. So, so that was pretty cool. But I just, I wasn't doing it to say, hey, I'm the first guy to do this or that. I was just doing it because the radio sucked, and it was a way for me to try and provide better music for Spokane,
right.
To try and duplicate what I had when I would go to Seattle and I'd hear Nasty-Nes and Sir Mix-a-Lot mixing on KFOX. I hear Reggie Reg and Arnell Smith on KTOY. I would get the tapes from like the Bay Area. I'd hear Cameron Paul, Prince Ice, eventually like Theo Mizuhara, Michael Erickson, tons of DJs from the Bay Area. The K-Day Mix Masters from LA. Anytime anyone was going out of town, I would say, hey, you got to record mixes from the radio. People thought I was crazy. But and also like Miami, you had the Bob Rosenberg in New York. You had the Latin Rascals, all of that. So I was just trying to duplicate the magic that I had felt when I heard those mixes, either when I was at some of the bigger cities and would hear them, live while they were mixing, or those for hours. Absolutely amazing. So, I was just trying to give that to the city. It's a long-winded version of
It's fine. It's totally fine. You again toward the end you started to break up a bit, but no, I mean
Okay.
that's very impressive as far as to look back on it now, right? How does that resonate to you now? Like how do you feel about all of the stuff that you pioneered in Spokane, and like you said, and when you having started with the thought of just I guess performing your art and then realizing that you've broken down a bunch of barriers and created a whole different legacy than maybe you realized. So looking back on it now, how does that make you feel?
Well, I like it. I like the fact that, I mean, I look at it from the aspect of hoping that I had helped make music a little bit better in Spokane. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Not, when I was younger, I think, uh, the glory, self gratification or glory or whatever. You have that, but as I'm older, I look back, I'm just happy to be a part of something that helped to make it a little bit better. So, and I don't know why that is, but Spokane's not very supportive. And I don't know if it's because, like, so the media doesn't support, um, the radio now, television media, none of them support it, even though we could do all kinds of incredible things, work with great people. Um, and they'll just, I don't know, they just don't support it. And it's weird, but it's also a lot of the people in Spokane don't support it as well, which is, it's too bad because, so there's like some other people that have come to Spokane or are from here and have done some really cool and influential things in hip hop. A case in point is a guy named Tobin Costen. I used to do a radio show at Gonzaga University here in Spokane with him. And Tobin was very bright, loved hip hop, just as much as I did. And, we would chop it up and we would do all kinds of stuff. And he had a lot of good goals and ideas. And when he graduated from Gonzaga, because the we had the hip hop show on the radio, only hip hop show at that time on the radio in Spokane. You get good connections with people in the industry.
Right.
So he had developed some good connections with some people in the Bay Area, like King Charles and some different people. And he ends up going down. He moved from Spokane to the Bay Area, and then eventually became the vice president of No Limit Records and was the manager for Master P. Now, if you look at the time frame when Tobin entered the picture, Master P had already been doing music. He'd been a lot of things that he'd already been in it for a little while. It wasn't until Tobin came and then became involved in that, and then all of a sudden they just exploded. Um, and so, I mean, you never know what you know. When something happens, there's a lot of different pieces that. Um, I don't think it was a coincidence that after Tobin went there, then all of a sudden they just went to a whole nother level.
Mm.
But so that's an example of someone in Spokane doing incredible things. But I don't see, a lot of people don't even know that. And I don't see Tobin get a lot of love for his contribution. And I think also a lot of the artists, because Spokane is a small town, they're it goes between, I mean, it's the second largest city in Washington, but so but there's a small town mentality, yet there's also the other people that want to uh they want it to be like a bigger city, more metropolitan happening type area. So but
Mm.
it reverberates between the two. So it seems to me that the people, maybe it's media or somewhere, maybe the higher ups um don't want it to really be like a big city. They want to keep it more like a small town. So I don't. Anyways, so a lot of the local artists, they people have an ego. You know, music industry is weird in general, but a lot of people have egos, and a lot of people want to be the man and all of that, and they want to be the first to do this, first to do that, or they want to blow up, or you know, and it's not really. I mean, I don't know a lot of them. I've I've dealt with some of them, and but from what I see, I don't know if they have a true love for hip hop, to where it's about elevating hip hop in general, or is it about their own ego and they just want to be, they want to be popular. They want to have all the girls, going after them. They want to. A lot of people think that it's all money. You make one song and you're going to blow up, and they think you're going to do it by yourself, and then all of a sudden you're going to be rich and have all this money, and it's not like that,
Right.
So as far as Spokane, so that's another interesting thing. So I kind of wish that what I had done would set more of it. Well, I wish that people would realize, for one, you can do things if you want to. You can break ground, you could do whatever. You just have to work at it. And I've always tried to be, well, no, not always. When I was younger, I was a little bit different, but I try and be someone to help other people, to encourage others as well. Because when I keep saying that, when I was younger, I was kind of I was just a young guy and had the ego and all of that. And so I may not have been as helpful as I should have been or whatever. But over time you learn, and so since then I've tried to really just help a lot of people, encourage people, explain that hey, you can do whatever you want to do in life, whether it's music or whatever. You want to be a doctor, lawyer, you want to go to the Olympics, you can do it. But for one, you got to work for it. It doesn't come anything worth having does not come easy normally. You have to work for it, but you can do it. You just got to work for it. You got to put in the time. And always better to build bridges, have good relationships, work with people. And unfortunately, a lot of the people don't do that. So I kind of wish that, I do wish that my view on that would carry over to the younger people. Some of them are very open and accepting. Some of them are like, they think it's really cool that, the things that I've done, and they do give me that respect there. Then other people just have no clue, because either they're not from here or they just, I don't know, because maybe they don't see you like on MTV. Well, that's not even the same. They don't see you like on TV somewhere on some, some popular show or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. Knowing your hip hop history, if people know the history and the importance of, like the DJ from back in the day, and also the MC, if they look at how people created, how things came about, how things were created, I think they would have a better appreciation, and then they would probably want to utilize other elements as well. So they may want to utilize, a DJ or a producer, because I'm not the only DJ or producer now. The other ones, but a lot of the artists aren't really interested in utilizing like some of the other DJs or even the producers. And I don't know if that's because they can just get beats off of YouTube or whatever. And so they won't, I don't know what it is. Some really good producers as well. But a lot of the people they don't want to do all that. They don't want to sit in a studio, which you don't even need a lot of stuff now.
Right. The history of hip hop. Shout out to the DJ Prince Ice.
Yeah, absolutely. What's up, Prince Ice? You can do stuff at with a computer interface, microphone, or whatever software program. But it is good, I think, to work with multiple minds, because two heads are better than one, presuming that you get along and whatever. But there's with different heads, you get a different set of ears, and people could I think, really advance, what they're trying to do. If one, they work with people and don't have that ego and, put all that aside and, just do it for the love of hip hop instead of serving their ego or whatever,
Right. No, that makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense. Now, you spoke.
What's up? Oh, everything's good.
You spoke heavily on mixing, DJing. Now, talk to us about producing, because you've taken that up as well, right? So for
What's
you
that?
as a producer, I said, as far as producing music, you've taken it up as well, right? Could you speak to your experience
Correct.
with how you got into doing that, and what was that like for you, and was it a difficult transition from spinning records and mixing to you making producing?
Yeah, so actually, I think DJs make good producers. Same break, two different creators will give. Yeah, no, that's true. He said same break, two different creators will give you two different results. Absolutely. And that's the thing, is sometimes the results. I mean, if you got, you could have gold right there. Because someone else could, because I could do something, and then Prince Ice would do something, and then all of a sudden we're like, wow, I'll really dig what he did. Man, I didn't even think about that, and vice versa. So DJs, I think, make good producers because you already have an ear for what will get people on the dance floor, or what, like radio. So the difficult part for me with that, though, was simply at that time you needed a lot of equipment. And so it was getting that equipment, so I ended up getting a drum machine. I didn't have a sampler. In fact, you know what? Here, this was the first drum machine I ever bought. This one right here. I still have it. It was figuring out, because there weren't really other hip hop producers in Spokane at that time. So it was figuring out what I needed, what were people doing the music on. Back then sampling was really big, and I didn't have a sampler. I didn't get an SB1200 until a little bit later. It was like, those were like $2,000-$3,000.
Right.
And so I got one that was used, but it was fine, so it was a little bit cheaper. But so my initial thing.
You broke up.
On the at least it's HR16, I didn't know about quantize, right? So I sat there for hours. I was just talking about this with this local artist in Spokane. His name is Pest the Menace. He had mentioned quantize, and it brought me back. The first time I was trying to do my hi-hats, and I was trying to do that, I sat there for like 2 days, for hours, trying to get it perfectly on time.
Right.
TJ Collins, because we were actually doing it, we started a group together. He had said, "Hey, quantize looks pretty cool," and I was like, "Quantize?" I remember seeing that in the manual, but I didn't. At that time, because I spent so many hours trying to get it just right, when I could have just simply hit, From that, though, was it got my timing better, so instead of just because I'm not a drummer or anything like that, but so that was harder for me. Yeah, so I had a good ear for what people would like, what gets people on the dance floor. So that was good. It was just once I figured out, and then here's how I actually, because I had a 4-track recorder, so I would make the beat on my drum machine, and then I would find samples from the records, but I would go and piece them together on the 4-track. So basically, you take this, little clip here, another one there, And then the problem with that is eventually the your sound quality, because especially if you're bouncing it to another track or whatever, it degrades in sound quality. But again, that was actually, because of my mixing, that was not that difficult. It was just tedious, but a lot of the master mixes that I make were quite tedious anyways. So it wasn't anything I wasn't used to, and it's actually a little bit easier because an hour. And so those would take like a really long time. But then, obviously once getting the actual sampler and then looking at all, that was a big help, And then the cool thing, so that's the thing, by knowing your history and, knowing, even like you go a little bit further than just who the creators were, but how did the creators create, then you develop an appreciation for what you can do now. So like on my phone, and I talk about this, I just talked about this recently on KFOX, but on my phone, there's a couple apps I have. They cost about $20. The capabilities on those two apps, if I were to have all the equipment back when I started back in the 80s to do what those two apps can do, I would have had to have paid about $150,000. I have $150,000 back then, but how you can create songs with just minimal equipment. The technology has made it so much easier, which there's a minus to that as well. We can get into that, but technology has made it so much easier that you don't have to and so that's a plus. So if people realize that, because a lot of people don't know that, they still think that you have to go to a big studio, which is a big place for like mastering and whatnot, but you don't need that. If that's your thing, and it does kind of help creativity, presuming you can remember back in the day, that's very, very expensive, but so but they are creative though. They do, it's a good creative environment, I think. But at the same time, you can only stand there for so long, and you got to get out, maybe drive. I always found that driving in my car helped a lot, because you get out of the studio environment, every beat starts sounding the same, and then you got to break away from that, and then you go. So with the equipment, there's so much that you can do, but at the same time, it's taken away from, I think, the creativity, and it's become so easy. People just kind of don't appreciate it. And then a lot of people, they don't even buy the equipment. They just buy some beat off of YouTube and, oh, that sounds good, without any idea how long it took the guy to make that beat, how he made the beat. And what if there's something on there, you like the beat, but you want to change one little thing? Well, how are you going to do that if you didn't make the beat yourself and you don't know how to make a beat, And then also, back in the day, you had really good musicians. I mean, man, so you got like Earth, Wind, and Fire, Parliament, all of them great. Oh my goodness, those guys, for one, they can put on a show, but they can just create incredible music. And so people don't necessarily have to learn their instruments. It does seem like it has taken away from that. So
lost you for a second.
But technology, and the same thing with like using DJ controllers with DJing, not learning the fundamentals on two turntables, and and you can't really knock technology completely, because if you look, we're doing this interview right here on, I'm here in Spokane, you're in LA, Absolutely amazing what technology has done. And if you really break it down, I mean, going back to the early part of go back to like the early 1900s, right? I mean, how are you going to listen to music? You know, basically you got to get a band together. You got to find somebody that can play some drums, someone that can play some stringed instruments. You got to go rent some hall somewhere. You know, so you definitely embrace technology. You know, because we can put it, we can put a bunch of music on our phone and listen to it, you know. But there has to be that balance. So that's why I think it's important for people to know their history, know how, especially in hip hop, who the creators were, what the elements of hip hop are, who the creators were, how they made their music, and also listen to some of those, listen to the rappers from back in the day, like, so listen to like Rakim, right?
Right.
Did Rakim use lots of profanity? Right. And, you know, okay, I understand if someone, you know, maybe the need to cuss is maybe whatever point you're making is emphasized best by using an expletive, whatever. But at the same time, if that's all you're doing, if every other word is something that I have to edit out when I'm trying to put it on my mix show, to me, seems to show a lack of vocabulary, or they just didn't put a lot of time into, you know, developing their lyrical craft. So when I go back to Rakim, you know, if you go back and listen to his lyrics, absolutely incredible. And not just what he says, but how he says it, you know. So that's the other, if people know their history, know their hip hop, know the creators, know the people who came before them, I think it would elevate people more now. And I don't know their history. Clearly a lot do, but there's a lot who don't. And it would just be good if people did.
Right. And that's interesting that you say that. You know, we recently just had the verses with Big Daddy Kane versus KRS-One, and I got to tell you, that was probably the best verses I've seen. I won't even say probably, it was the best verses I'd seen up to point. I mean, it's just, you know, and looking at the chat room, at the people that were commenting and were, you know, like Timbaland and Jermaine Dupri and, you know, just these icons, but they're like, listen to the music. Like, the music is just not like this anymore. You know what I mean? Like the beats they were using, or you know what I mean? How full they were, how they were just, you know what I mean? Like, it resonated differently. You know what I mean? So I totally understand where you come from with that, and which is why I'm a big buff of hip hop, and as I told Prince Ice, I'm not sure if you knew, but I'm originally from Washington D.C. So, you know, a lot of my and my family from the tri-state in New York, you know, New York, Jersey, and Philly. So, you know, I grew up listening to Bambaataa. I grew up listening to, you know, Cool Herc and the Herculoids, and, you know, just really just that boom bap with in the true essence of the what hip hop is, the culture. You know what I mean? And it's, you can't get that anywhere else, and I miss it. You know, so I really pay attention, especially my production now. My music production is heavily influenced by that era, because, like you said, it's missing. Like, I don't think people appreciate the soul that came with that music, you know, and it's unfortunate, but hopefully we'll get, you know, it'll turn it back, you know, because the music's secular. So hopefully it'll come back, and it'll turn its head back around soon. Hopefully, that's my hope, at least.
Yeah. No, absolutely, you're absolutely right. And so DC, so you had the go-go music, like EU, you know, they're probably the better known. You know, that's a really, to me, I an energy you know, and early hip hop. So if you were over there and you're you know, the Herculoids and all, even so, hip hop also seemed to be very more. It seemed to be more diverse, maybe back then. Well, what I mean is, so you had things like you had the breakbeat
Mm-hmm.
would Mixcraft work. You would have Art of Noise, who the funny thing is, Art of Noise back then were trying to make futuristic music, yet people in the future go back and make the music that sounded like the Art of Noise, you know. But
Right.
but hip hop was more embracing. It was like it anything that you could work in that sounded interesting and cool, you could do it, you know. It worked, you know. And somewhere that's kind of shifted, you know. There was a break where you have some people only like East Coast, some people only like West. But I think it's better because Coast, there's good West Coast, there's good music from down south, there's good music in Brazil, there's good music, hip hop music actually from Russia. There's good music all over the world, you know. And so by being more open-minded and listening to not just hip hop, you know, but listening to all types of music, you can, for one, get better ideas, but also as far as, you know, I've met some people that they will only listen to, and I'm like, okay, well, the analogy I heard from that, it was actually by Gene Simmons from Kiss, who said, well, if you only ate, like, say, steak and lobster, if that's all you like, if that's all you, I mean, steak and lobster is good, but if that's all you ate because it's good, you're going to be, for one, malnourished, because you're going to miss out on all of the other, you know, vitamins and nutrient food out there. But you're going to miss out on all the other food out there. Great. So you may love steak and lobster right now, but you're going to miss out, like, say you go to Thailand and you eat something that they have there, which is absolutely amazing, you know. And so that's a good analogy that applies to music, because there's so much good music. I don't know how anyone would want to just listen to one style of music all the time, you know, because listen to her because she doesn't do, you know, whatever, you know, whether it's hardcore rap, hardcore rock, whatever. And then also by listening to other types of music, you get more ideas, you're more you're influenced. So, like, you know, a lot of the East Coast hip hop back in the day, it was amazing how they would take the jazz records and all these jazz samples. There was a guy in Spokane, Jay the Law, who production on the SP 1200. I'd say he was on the level of Pete Rock, and that's a bold statement, but I stand by it. And but it's just incredible the type of things that, because he really liked the old jazz records, and he'd go and scour and listen to the whole record and find one little sound and then just tweak it out, manipulate it. And, you know, and there's other people who do incredible things like that as well. So open mind to all different types of music. I think you have the potential to make better music, because, for one, you're not stagnant, you know. You're not going to always, you might always sound the same, but your mind is open and more ideas can flow in, you know. And there's no reason why you can't hear something from, like, India or something and listen to the way they do their rhythm or whatever, and then incorporate that into your drum pattern, or if you scratch their rhythm into your scratching, you know. And so that, by doing that, just, to me, it keeps it more interesting. And, you know, the thing is, we only live once, so we might as well enjoy life. And if we want to do music, you know, just go for it, make the best music that we can. You know, if we got some crazy idea, who knows, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but at least you tried it. And you're not going to know if it works unless you try it. And if you try it, then, and it does work, you know, then the cool thing is that you could bless someone else with, you know, what you've created. and you may make their day. Like, you know, so they, even if it's just an instrumental, they might be going through some issue in life and they happen to hear it somehow and it just changes their whole mood. You know, it takes them away from, you know, whatever was going on in their life and puts them into another world. Then that, for one, you actually make the world a little bit better by doing that, because, you know, music is the universe. I mean, music is a universal language, you know. And man, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going on and I'm thinking about this, and it's just, you know, all the incredible things that, you know, when it goes back to we live once, and you know, so much great music out there. We may enjoy it, and if we make music, just find inspiration anywhere, really, you know. And it doesn't have to be in music. You could be watching a commercial, you could be walking down the street talking to somebody and somebody says something, or maybe there's a whistle or something, or something about the running water, or just whatever, you know. And you can find that inspiration if you could take that and then create something to try and make the world a little bit better, because eventually we're all going to pass away, you know. That's unfortunate. I mean, we see it all the time, you know, all these artists lately, well, a lot of artists, I mean, Biz Markie, you know, may rest in peace. You know, in 2020, when 2020 started, I was sitting there thinking back about all the artists that we lost in 2020. Well, when 2021 started, and I was like, man, this is, it's, for one, it's heartbreaking, you know, but everyone's going to pass away, but it's heartbreaking because you really look back on these people and their body of work, and it's, for one, it's impressive what they've done, and you really thank them for what they have created and given to the world. But at the same time, it's sad because you'll never get that person to come back. So like I made a mix, it's a 2020 and beyond rest in peace mix, where I just only mixed people who had like passed away in 2020. And then I included other people as well, because there's you know, you have like Marvin Gaye, you know, who, you know, passed away, and and so, but as I was doing that, it was really, I was really just, for one, I was kind of sad, you know, doing it. I was happy to do it, you know, as a way to pay respect and honor them. I was sad as well because I'm listening to all these great musicians and these people, what all the great things they've done, and we'll never get that from them again. You know, luckily their music lives on, you know. But so eventually we're all going to pass away, and then what's our legacy when we do pass away? What's our legacy going to be? Are people going to be able to look back at whatever body of work that we've done, and are we going to, you know, is it going to be a good thing? I mean, not everybody does, you know, people make mistakes, sure, but it's not whether you make a mistake, it's whether you learn from it, whether you know, because that you fail when you stop trying, and then also when you let those past mistakes define you. Learn from them, and that's how you become a better person. So, you know, so when eventually you pass away, that's why I like music, because, and DJing and all that, because when you do pass away, you'll have a body of work that people can listen to, and hopefully, you know, they'll appreciate it, and hopefully you can inspire them and bring something good to someone else's life, you know, because the reality is, we're not, even though a lot of people would like to think, you know, it's everyone, we're all in this together. So that's something interesting for people to listen to, and eventually when I'm gone, hopefully people will listen and say, wow, you know, he was really, you know, for one, he was passionate about what he was doing, you know. So yeah.
Well, I mean, from your body of work, it's impressive anyway. So I mean, you know, that catalog right there alone it's going to speak for itself when people actually take a look at it, and that's the point. Like you said, at the end of the day, for people to open it up, and when they open it up, they can see it for itself. It plays for itself. It speaks for itself. You know,
Right.
so that much is impressive. I do want to. I know we wanted down on time, but I do want to talk about you. Since we talked about mixing, we talked about production. The next logical thing to talk about is your work with JJ Hudson. How did that come about? What was your thoughts on that? And then
yeah, so
good.
Okay. So actually I met her through Nasty-Nes, which here we are on the Put Up magazine, and there's actually, oh yeah, there's Ness and Jay. And surprisingly, she doesn't like that photo. She doesn't think it's a good photo. Yeah, there we go. I think it's a great photo, you know, whatever, but anyways, so I met her through Ness, and Ness was, so the High Children is like it's an open source hip hop group. Very talented group of people. There, and JJ. So JJ has a really good story, and actually, it'd probably be better for her to get into her story. If you ever want to interview someone, you know, that would be a really good interview. But great story. So anyway, so I met her through Ness, and you know, she had done some, and so Let It Pop, that's her newest song. My third song didn't sound anything like it. You know, my third song was, you know, it took me a while to come up with, stuff that, yeah, you know. So, but anyways, yeah. So she, I really like her story just as a person, because she's been through some struggle. 3 years ago, she decided to turn her life around from, you know, so that really resonates with me. And she's very talented, very hungry, very talented. And we're working on some new music for her right now. But to me, as soon as I heard that song, Let It Pop, I actually heard it on Facebook when she was in the studio and they were just doing a rough version of it. I listened to it and I was like, oh my goodness, I really like that, because I heard the hook, right? And I heard the catchy James Brown sample. And I was like, man, I really like that. And yeah, so anyway, so that's how I met them. And then so Ness was actually trying to get me into the group, and it was funny. So one day I was working on something, and Ness says, hey, I want the High Children to know that you can scratch. So here's a song. I want you to scratch to it real quick. You know, just something that shows you know how to. But and I'm like, all right. So then I developed. I thought of a good scratch pattern, and I picked a sound that wasn't, you know, the and the fresh, you know, something that was different, you know, and then and I put this together and sent it to him, and then he was like, oh yeah, it sounds good, but you didn't do this. You know, he wanted me to do do all this stuff. And I'm like, Ness, I'm in the middle of a bunch of stuff. I don't listen to it. But anyway, so eventually one of my other mixes, he sent it to him, and, you know, as far as my scratching, and then I guess they liked it and stuff. And so that's how I got into the group. Really, Ness was vouching for me. And they also had a DJ Shifty, who's like good friends with one of those guys. He had done some stuff for them as well. He was, if anyone knows DJing and all that, he's a very well respected, very talented DJ. But the funny thing is, that scratch that I did on the song, I don't think Ness ever played it for him. And it wasn't until my show I decided to use it in my show, and then I all of a sudden I got compliments for it, and then that tells me, okay, Ness didn't even send him that, which he should have, because it's actually, you know, it's pretty cool. But I don't know, have you interviewed him before?
No, I haven't.
Okay, if not, that would be, you're gonna laugh. You know, Ness is not a comedian, even though I think he'd like to be, but he's actually really funny though, you know. So
that's cool.
So that's how I got involved in it. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's how I actually got in the group with the High Children. And so right now we're working on remixes for Let It Pop. And I've been mixing it on my show, and it's, you know, because I have the acapella, it just sounds great when I mix it up with other, you know, with other tracks and just using my own drum machine and all that, or when my drum machine and my software. But we've got some really good remixes of that coming out as well. But I don't know. That's if on stream Spotify right now. Actually, you know what? Streaming on Tidal or one of those pay a little bit better than Spotify. Spotify pays like 0.0035 cents per stream, you know. And I don't know if you're aware of that history of how they came up with those rates. But it's, yeah, oh my goodness, it's actually I didn't know it. I learned it from Man Parrish. I was watching an interview with him that Jeff had hooked up. You know, Man Parrish, Boogie Down Bronx and all of that.
Yeah.
He was on the interview as well, but yeah, so anyways, that was really interesting knowing how they came up with that rate to basically, I think, rip people off. And I'll say that, you know, the reality is, you know, artists should be paid better. I mean, you put all this hard work into it, and so people should, you know, for one, you know, when people don't pay people, you should pay them for, you know, the work they've done. Like Arabian Prince, you know, when he had to sue, he wasn't asking for like any extra money. He was just asking for money that he was owed, stuff, you know, that was fair. You know, the work he did, just pay him for the work he did. So that's important. But also your indie artist. So anyone out there, if you have an indie artist that you like, you know, try not to take it off of YouTube for free. You know, go and stream it, buy it. You know, support your indie artists, because, you know, people put their heart and soul into this, you know, so that's just one way to show up. And also if they're performing somewhere, show up, you know, go to their concert and show some love, you know. And that goes to the bigger picture of, you know, again, it's not just us on the planet, it's everyone working together. You know, everyone is here together, and it's good if we can do things to help other people, then I think that's better, you know. So anyway, so stream Let It Pop on one of the other platforms like Tidal, or one of the ones that pay better than Spotify. If not, you know, if you just have Spotify, that's fine as well. But stream it, you know, and then watch out for the remixes, because those are
okay. We'll make sure we definitely do that.
Or how do you want to do that?
We
actually be asking you questions too.
Anyway, man, I'm always game for questions. These we actually have a video for that, right. So I want to go ahead and run that out for so people can witness this JJ Hudson song. So I'm play it now. Without further ado, JJ Hudson, Let It Pop.
Okay.
Tô na correria, a ideia brotar. Tenho estilo de malandria. Sou cria do morro, não posso parar. Mano, esse som que tá rolando aqui.
O que foi, Missão?
Aquela mina da gringa de Nidi. Como é que é o nome dela mesmo?
JJ and High Children.
Caramba, mano, essa mina conhece o Nasty-Nes.
Ô, louco, ela anda com o Grandmixer GMS.
Gente, cala a boca, eu não tô falando nada só. Não, na moral, Matheus, aumenta aí.
Pode deixar, só se for agora.
When I let the boss drop, let it pop, yeah. That just slaps, that just knocks. Started at the bottom, now we all the way up. Let it pop, yeah, let it pop, come on. That just bangs, that's just hot. See me on the block when I let the boss drop. Let it pop, yeah, let it pop. Yeah, I've been in it for a minute, now I'm back on the grind. Competition, they ain't wishing I was losing my mind, but I'm better with mine, I'm ahead of my time. I'm behind these bars like I set up a crime. I'm subliminal criminal up in the set. Do my dirt by my lonely, so quiet as kept. Yep, best bet, these buttons. Lips keep flopping, but they say a lot of nothing. You know what the mission is, savage with my viciousness. Never get caught, cause there ain't no witnesses. Take what I want and get what they giving. Don't talk back if you wanna stay living. I'm a man's desire, women conspire. Spit that heat till the spot's on fire. Double bag money, don't get this twisted. I'm the landlord, stupid bitches get evicted. That just slaps, that just knocks. Started at the bottom, now we all the way up. Let it pop, specimen. Yeah, turn me up is what I recommend. Now my song is out even though it's in. Don't try to flirt cause I don't wanna kiss you. Ain't no issue, I'll never get with you. Fools looking weak, stop crying, need a tissue. Looking so pathetic, I don't even need a diss you. Better get my credit if I said it, I meant it. Got them all gassed up, no unleaded. Too many options every time I drop it. Really wanna try me, we could really let it pop then. Dudes wanna chat cause they think I'm so cute. So they never do expect it when I pull up and I shoot, yeah. Pucker up, stuck 'em up, fully loaded. Had a mask on anyways, COVID. My squad's too deep for the drama. Point blank period, no comma. Ayy, dead ass, I'm a real one. Straight out the hood and I'm good on the steel drum. Now really, chicks wanna kill me just because I'm what they not and they never will be. I don't know what you think you heard. I'm a winner, here's a dinner, fake just get served. That just slaps, that just knocks. Started at the bottom, now we all the way up. Let it pop, yeah, let it pop, come on. That just bangs, that's just hot. See me on the block when I let the bars drop. Let it pop, yeah, let it pop.
Yo, it's funny too because I see you and Ness was catching work back there. That's awesome, man. Listen, without further ado, make sure you support that Let It Pop, man.
That video. Those are our friends from Brazil. Mixcloud, they're actually a group. So the beginning song you hear is actually their song. The group, the Brazilians that are sitting around at the table talking in Portuguese. MC Mixcloud and Jenny D, they're a group down there. Super cool people. And yeah, so they did that little skit for us in there, which is really cool. And nice. Yeah, and they you know what, they have they're doing something with Universal Music Group Brazil or something like that, But anyways, so in the video though, so shouts out to them and the Last Soldier's crew. So the one of the guys, he's a breakdancer, and I think the other girl's a breakdancer too, or they're hip hop. See, they love hip hop, and it's funny, it's weird. You get a lot of people from around the world that are more into it than a lot of the people here. I don't know, are people spoiled or what is it, or is it just I don't know. It's weird, but they're really into it. So props to them, and they're not they don't have the egos. They appreciate all of the elements of hip hop, the people who do it. So that's and what I like also is that so Tairrie B, she likes hip hop where a girl will just rock a mic, right. When she watched one of the award shows, she was actually upset because she was, look, I just want to see someone, it was during Women's History Month, and she wants to see some women just rock the mic. Instead, what she saw was a lot of girls up there, basically, they seem like strippers, whatever, which, if a girl is doing that as a form of self-empowerment, then that's one thing. But if it's just because some guy's behind the scenes and he's saying, hey, sex will sell, let's do that, then, I think that's different. So right. I've actually talked to JJ about this because, JJ looks at it as a form of self-empowerment, taking control. Just like, so Tairrie B, she had, the word bitch, she flipped it. She said, okay, it's being in total control of herself, but anyway, so I've talked to JJ about this. And so, as far as the hip hop thing, and she was actually influenced by that. And so I can see some good, so without saying what it is, but some good stuff that is actually by, Tairrie B's, design. Well, she wants to see you just hip hop, a girl just rock a mic. So that's, what's up? Hey, what's up, Harry? Harry Jameson. Yes. A girl just rock the mic. And, it's one thing to be sexy and empowered, but, how do I say it without giving too much? Well, good stuff is coming. So more true hip hop essence. Here's a JJ's emoji. Got to do this. BTP Prince Ice. There we go. Rest in peace. Oh man. Right there. Rest in peace. And this is a CD. Someone he would have been great review. Victor Fresco Zendejas. Yakima and like Walla Walla. A lot of recognition outside of his area, but incredible DJ, incredible music producer, loved hip hop, did a lot for hip hop in the area. And he passed away recently from COVID. So a lot of times, like when I saw the Nasty-Nes emoji COVID mask, in honor of, people who have passed from COVID. And so a lot of times I'll do the interviews with that, especially Victor just passed away this year from COVID, which, sucks, but may he rest in peace. That's someone that, if anyone ever knew him, he was just an incredible person. And it was honor. I was really blessed and honored to meet him. So shouts out, of course, again, Sick Jitsu, the MMA gym. Juliana Pena, I think, is going to win that title against Amanda Nunes. A lot of people are counting her out, but you don't know your history. You haven't, anything can happen, but you gotta understand the history and look at what someone's strengths and weaknesses are. But anyway, so shouts out to Rick Little again. Happy birthday, and everyone. Theo, Brady, Ashton, Melissa, everyone at this. Chance, everybody at the Sick Jitsu gym. Shouts out to all of them as well. And again, happy birthday to Rick. Theo. Did I mention Theo? I know I mentioned him earlier, but again, Theo Dukas, he's making his pro debut next Friday. So yeah, I'm like super nervous because I'm thinking of ways that even though Theo's an assistant coach, I'm thinking of ways that how can I help him with his game plan, even though I'm not the coach. So that's probably best left to let the actual coach and the actual MMA fighters do their thing. But you gotta support that you're around. What's up, Harry Big Dog? Harry the Big Dog. He's super cool. Hey, so yeah, let me ask you what got you into hip hop? And yeah, what got you into hip hop and why?
Like I said, being from the area, it was more like a way of life. I have older cousins that I looked up to around in that era, and all they did was dance, rock and fly gear, break dance, the whole nine. So I'm young, just watching them, listening to the music. And I grew up in a family where like my dad was a music producer and a musician. My family used to come down like every week and like literally do like these karaoke style music videos. It's like they would break out the camcorder, set it up, and then they just play. It'd be like all night music, camcorders, we lip syncing, we dancing, we just having a good time. But the biggest thing was my cousins, because they would come down. My cousins would come down from the north with mixtapes, old doo-wop tapes, and like stuff that I had never heard of before. And and they'd be playing it, they'd be dancing and stuff like that. And I just fell in love with it. The sound, the time, the era, the feeling. It's like, to me, I liken it to watching, like, I think that's one of the things about Stranger Things that is captivating, because it's a period piece. It caught that time where people felt a certain kind of way, and you connect to it immediately. And I think that's the thing with hip hop, is that, like I said, there's a stark difference between hip hop and rap, right? And it's more of the culture, more of the lore, more of the, it's the clothes you wear, it's the attitudes you had. The MCs were real. The MCs were spitting about what was going on. You know what I mean? It evolved into that bravado back and forth, but for the most part, it was really just telling stories about what it was like in the cities. You know what I mean? So the stories were there. So, like I said, for me, it started with that. And then by me being a musician and growing up in the house, like I said, my dad being a producer and listening to, Tower of Power and Earth, Wind and Fire and, Spyro Gyra and, Queen, and just eclectic kind of music. I really got into the different styles of music and really got to. I remember my first drum machine was like on a like a Casio and had the little drum pads on it. So I used to do these loops to the music. You know what I mean? And it just really, I really started to space out as far as putting things on wax. I could take this sound and put it to this beat, and just make it make sense. And it became a challenge for me. And here I am, decades later, still doing the same thing, still making samples, like you said, taking Indo music and putting them over boom bap. You know what I mean? Like, who would do that? Or I'll take a Oopa Loopa sample and put it over top of something else. You know what I'm saying? And people be like, yo, like, whoa, how'd you even come up with that? So that's how I got into it. That's how I fell in love with it, and that's why it is what it is. And to me, I think the last piece of it is, I think that with regard to the music now, like I said previously, is that it's nothing else like it. You know what I mean? Like coming from the Northeast, and like I can go back over there now, and they're still playing music that you don't hear out here. There's music that I have not heard in the 6 years I've been out here, but I go back to DC and they're still playing it, and it's like just straight boom bap, or straight just like dope music, or Mike Geronimo, Big L, stuff like that. Mobb Deep. I haven't heard a Mobb Deep song since I've been out here. You know what I mean? And it's like, why is that? So it's stuff. It's stuff like that to me that really resonated with me. But that's my thing, is that I grew to be good at it. I grew to understand exactly what it was about, and it just strengthens me as a music producer to be able to get behind it, and kind of tool up in my Super Saiyan mode with it when I'm in the studio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, you touched on some very very, very powerful things there, and you're absolutely right. That, like the Oompa Loompa thing, that's the thing. You can find something, you never know where, and also what people were talking about, the message from like a lot of the early hip hop. You had a lot of the people from the old and starting, talking about things that are important to me in society, and our let's see, am I still going?
You're still going.
Can't tell. I don't.
You're still going.
Technology, come on. Okay, well, yeah. Okay, there you are. All right. Could you hear me the whole time?
Not the whole time.
So yeah, so like, okay, so back in the day, you had like Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5, The Message. Very, those were socially conscious records. And right. It was last year that you had the artists like Public Enemy, Paris. You had KRS-One, Tairrie B also. That's yeah, just a lot of things that were going on. So people, the people from back in the day came back, made some, to me, I think, very important records, and records that were needed, and that was the type of message that should have come out. And politics aside, whatever side of the aisle you're on, or whatever, maybe you're in the middle, whatever. And if someone's doing something wrong, it's a song about George Floyd called "Say His Name," featuring Alexander O'Neal. the thing is that it was cool to see the people from back in the day come out and speak about something that a lot of the people weren't speaking about. There were some people, some of the new artists that were talking about, you know, some important things, but very few and far in between. So I was happy, and I thought it was a blessing to see a lot of those artists from back in the day come out and speak about, you know, what was going on. Especially, you know, I really like the Paris's record. You know, I mean, pretty aggressive approach, you know, but that's what I liked about it. He wasn't filtered. He said what he said what he, and to me that was hip hop. That was you know, and not just the political aspect, but you know, he's talking about scholarships and, you know, yeah, just he really hit a lot. But
yeah.
And I wish I would see more of that. I wish didn't need you know, just like we would all like world peace, you know, that's something we should all strive for. But unfortunately, history shows that things are going to happen. And if
lost your feet.
Okay.
Okay. There you go.
All right. So we're back. So anyways, it was if it would be better if we didn't need to speak out about things, but when things happen, history shows that things are going to happen, and if they do, it's important for people to yeah, so that's the beautiful thing about music, is that you can say things that it might not resonate just in a conversation, but maybe it'll resonate just by making the music. And it doesn't even have to be lyrics, just an instrumental piece sometimes will do it. You know, it can bring many different people together, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. And that's the beautiful thing about it, you know, and there's nothing else really you can say about it other than, you know, that, you know, it's truly an art form, and I wish more people would take it as such. And I think that's the thing that gets missing. Yeah. People kind of see it for what it can do for them instead of it just being pure expression, pure art, you know?
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen, Grandmixer GMS, we are at time. Definitely was amazing to have you on the show. I would love to bring you actually back on at some point in the future. Possibly bring you on with Prince Ice, maybe bring Harry on.
Yeah,
but definitely would love to keep in touch with you and definitely bring you back at some point in time. Like I said, let's see. How can people learn more about you? Still there, GMS?
Okay. Yeah, so thank you. It's been an honor to be on here. I really appreciate it. People can learn more about me. Actually, follow me on Instagram at Grandmixer GMS, all one word, and then and Facebook. Mostly Instagram though. I just do the Facebook post automatically, you know, whatever. But yeah, just Instagram. You can keep in touch with, keep up on me there. And also follow me on Mixcloud. That's where I upload. Also, you can hear me on some Monday through Friday. I'm on Pump It Up Magazine Radio. Actually been playing my shows back to back, which is really cool. 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Tuesdays I'm on Esway radio with, I don't know if you remember. Thank you, Harry. I don't know if you remember. Actually, that's another just true hip hop artist, someone who loves hip hop. But he does a radio show, radio station, Esway Radio, and it's actually a really good station. So that's every Tuesday at 5 p.m. And then also WRDR on Friday nights at 5 o'clock as well. And you can hear my show on there. And then every Sunday, you can hear me with the legend DJ Nasty-Nes on KFOX Nightbeat. So you know, but if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see everything, because I post when I have time. Sometimes I'm so busy doing 20 different things at once, I don't have time to post everything. But on the things, I try and always stay up on it though. So if you follow my Instagram, you will definitely see whatever I'm doing. And then you'll get some tidbits too. So if you like positivity, if you like good music, you like MMA or whatever, I will post stuff on, you know, things like that. And again, you know, we don't always have to agree, but that's the thing. You know, everyone has their own opinion, and each person's opinion, I think, is to be valued, because, you know, if everybody's the same and everybody looked the same, the world would be pretty boring. And it's always good to keep an open mind. So, you know, anyways, yeah, so just follow me there. And again, thank you so much. I really appreciate being on here. And I know I will talk and talk and talk, you know, because you actually have a really good, cool, laid back vibe and presence. And it's a very comfortable interview. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate you for saying that. Thank you. And again, I don't have a problem with communicating, brother. I like to talk myself, man. I wish we had more time to be able to do this, but like I said, that's why we can always do a part 2. We can bring you back, and we can just, you know, chew the fat, man. You know. But you know, again,
definitely.
Congratulations on everything that you've done up to this point. Again, you are definitely a part of the culture. You were definitely important to the culture, and thank you for everything that you've done for the culture. And look forward to whatever else you got going on in the future. If I could be a part of, be of service as far as helping by way of promo, or just, you know, help me to get the word out, feel free to reach out to me. You got my info. You know what I mean? And you know, I'll help you repost or whatever. You know, and that's time. But make sure you guys like and subscribe. Grandmixer GMS. Follow him on social media and Mixcloud and everything that he said. This is one of the hardest working brothers in the business, man. Real live. Make sure you like and subscribe to the beat. Follow, like, do the whole 9. Okay. And but stay tuned. More guests to come. We mid season 4, and we're looking to go ahead first in the season 5 real soon. But you already know what time it is. You guys have a good evening. I'm Donnie B. GotDaBeats. We live on a beat, and we out. Peace.